Hello and welcome to another episode of All Elite Arcade. We're in the month of January. I cannot believe we're almost at the very end of January. The time is flying by, but at the same time, I'm simultaneously excited because we've got a big February release of video games. But I don't know about you, Chugs. Chugs, as always, here with me playing video games. But this is one of the weeks I've played the most video games in maybe a year or two.
Dude, me too. Listen, we've been saying since the beginning of the year, or I know I've been mentioning a lot, that I'm going to try to make 2025 the year where I play the most games and beat the most games. And this week, I certainly stuck to that plan with the amount of games that I played. Obviously, I have my 5-game cycle on twitch.tv/the Chugs, where I'm continuing a bunch of different games like The Witcher and Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door, Dark Souls 2, Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, Silent Hill 2 Remake. I'm going through those, but I'm also playing a lot off stream as well, Uno. So you've been really, really busy as well, huh?
Oh, yeah. I have I mean, we'll talk about The Witcher up first, but I have a handful of independent games I played on the side as well. This has been like this is one of the more, let's say every minute I had to myself, I just ended up spending it playing a video game, which
same
those used to be my days, but now, like, I don't know what happened this week, but I really had the benefit of investing more time.
It's a great week.
It is. I'm ecstatic about it. I mean, I don't know about anyone else, but it makes the podcast better, and therefore I can justify it. Witcher 3, I think we're both at the same part. You have it a part of your 5-game cycle. Last week I talked about how I was getting near the very end. Well, I actually got to the mission where they tell you it's the point of no return. And so I decided, okay, I'll jump into the DLC. I played through, what's the order? Heart and Stone is the first one.
Hearts of Stone is the first DLC, and the second one is Blood and Wine.
Okay, so Hearts of Stone I have started. I did all the Runewright stuff already because that's on. I didn't realize. I thought this would be in a different map, but I think most of it is actually in an extension of Novigrad at the very top. And so I started doing that one. I will say I'm now in the marriage portion where post a mission you're essentially gallivanting around a friend's wedding or a friend of a friend's wedding, but while you are being possessed by a ghost. So I've reached that point with there, which I know there's still a lot of story beats because I did all of the Runewright stuff. But simultaneously, I accidentally started the Two Saint mission, the other DLC. And I just want we'll talk about Heart of Stone real quickly afterwards, but I just want to say Two Saint is gorgeous. Holy shit.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird because it's not drastically different from the other visuals in the game, but something about the color palette in it is just like, it's what I imagine going to New Zealand must feel like, where you you walk up to a village and you're like, oh, this was like in Lord of the Rings. This is as beautiful. The oceans are as blue as humanly possible. It was very, very, very good looking. A whole new map in that section. I have not explored nearly as much of that. We will talk about that in the future. But I did want to give a nod to Two Saint because I'm very fascinated by the story of being invited to attack a beast from like a queen from another land and seeing like within. I think you fight 2 bosses within the first mission, and already those are more difficult than most of the beasts that I've fought within the main game. So I'm very excited to play that. Whereas Heart and Stone, I already think whatever they added as the map, I've already traversed all of it, and I've done all the question marks on it.
Beautiful.
I don't know how much time I invested in it, but like my whole day was just exploring that little piece of the map. I'm very curious to see where this goes, though, because I think actively, and you can confirm this after I say it, but in the wedding, I think what I do actually has an impact because I've done like 2 activities. And I'm starting to realize they might either annoy or not annoy the person I go to the wedding with, and I think that might have an effect on either this is another situation where I can have a relationship with one of the characters, or this will have lasting effects on stuff in the grand scheme of things. But the fact that I know as I play that I can't do all of the stuff at the wedding, and maybe the things I do choose will affect it, makes me very excited for this DLC, because that's the type of DLC I like. When it's not just like a piece of content you chew through, but a piece of content that you can actually affect and you can get your own version and talk about. I'm very excited to explore further. Are you in the DLC now on your Witcher run?
I am not actually, and I'm glad that we're talking about the DLC, because I did want to mention something to you as well, which was like news to me that I actually completely forgot. But first and foremost, am in kind of the same spot where I am towards the very end. I'm getting ready for the final preparations of the main mission within The Witcher 3. I want to mention a little side note, though. Generally speaking, when I'm playing in The Witcher, I'm very careful about which missions I do based on the level and things like that. And generally speaking, I don't die very much in The Witcher 3. I am playing on normal difficulty, but I don't die very much. Uno, I did towards the end, and once again, minor spoilers for a very old game, but just in case, the section where you're playing as Ciri, and you end up doing these back-to-back boss fights where Geralt has to fight one of the generals of the Wild Hunt. Ciri has to fight the Crones of Crookback Bog, which is the 3 witches, which, by the way, one of the coolest and most terrifying designs, I think, in the entire game, those bosses.
Yes.
But Uno, that fight was so hard. I do not remember being stuck. I died like 6 or 7 times before I was able to win this boss fight. It's 3 witches against Ciri at once. And finally, I started getting the hang of like which moves to use, because Ciri is like the most powerful character in the entire game. She's so fun to play as. So I eventually got the hang of it. But man, this boss fight was difficult. Did you by chance do you remember which boss fight I'm talking about?
Yes, yeah, you're talking about the 3 witches. And so I actually, we talked about this a little before the stream, in preparation, and I just thought about it. A big part of that, I don't know about you, but I was so well armored and well leveled up as Geralt that when you jump into Ciri, you no longer have the same strength, you don't have the same signs, and so like
you can't heal.
You can't heal. All of your default muscle memory on how you would do it with Geralt is gone. And I think part of that, why it's so difficult, is that. But I do remember, I actually died quite a few times at that fight. Anytime they pop me into Ciri for a little bit, all of those fights have been... I think all of them before were close calls, because they're not giant, like... These are bosses. These are straight up bosses. They have different attacks. They have different strengths. And like that's nearing the end of the game, so you know it's like a big fight on top of that. But every single time they would populate us in a fight as Ciri, I always had a hard time. And so I'm not surprised at all. I'm in the DLC. I'm now facing things that rival that fight, where I'm realizing like I have no choice but to use everything in the bestiary to try and defeat these bosses. It was very difficult fight for sure.
Yeah. But I also did want to say this is what we have so much to talk about today with the amount of games we played.
Oh, yes.
It's so exciting, but trying to cram it all in as well. But I did want to mention this also is it was brought to my attention from someone in the Chugs Army. His name's Matt. Shout out to Matt. But he was explaining, and I completely forgot about this. But actually, the way that you're doing it now, where you're doing Hearts of Stone before you finish the main game, technically, storyline-wise, you could do Hearts of Stone, then you can finish the main game, and then do the Blood and Wine DLC. Then do Toussaint. So I was under the impression that I had to do all the DLCs before I finished the base game. Apparently, that is not the case. Apparently, you can do Hearts of Stone, you can finish the main game, and then, like, storyline-wise, that fits the best. So it's not like you get locked out of the Blood and Wine DLC. So that's maybe something to consider. Obviously, you can do it any way that you want.
I think that's how I'm going to do it for sure, especially for level cap wise, because like I feel like the main mission is going to be so easy compared to Toussaint that if I do Toussaint and go back, it'll at least the suspense of can I beat this will be gone, because I know there's a big battle at the end that a lot of people have told me is quite incredible. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'll do Heart and Stone, which I think I'm probably within 10 hours of completing, and then I think I will go through Skellige. I'll do the last little bit of question marks I have in there, do the main mission, and then I'll move over to Toussaint. That's a completely different map too. It'll be a lot easier for my brain to fixate on one thing, finish it, and go to the next. So I'm definitely going to do that. But you are right. We have so much to talk about. We will talk more about The Witcher next week. Do not worry about. What else have you been playing, Chucks? What's on your Rolodex of stuff you put in time to?
Uno, I'm just gonna go off. I'll try to speed run through this as much as possible. But man, did I play a lot of games, especially considering I had myself a little snow day last week, which really added to being able to sit at home and game. But once again, I'm gonna very quickly run through kind of what's been going on with the 5-game cycle on Twitch. If you want to hear more about those games, obviously twitch.tv/the Chugs. We're playing a bunch of really cool stuff. But once again, we just talked about The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Also continuing Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door. I'm a little over halfway through that incredible game. Again, the writing is so good. I'm continuing to get more and more characters. Just love the art style. Love the bosses. Really fun. Dark Souls 2, Skylar of the First Sin. I am about to start the first DLC within that game, which I'm very excited about. I think some of the bosses and some of the areas are not only some of the coolest in all of Dark Souls 2, but also some of the most difficult. So that'll certainly be challenging because I'm definitely getting towards the end of the base game. And with the Dark Souls games, you absolutely want to do the DLC before you finish the game. Otherwise, you're locked out of those DLCs. Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown, once again, continuing through that game. I'm at the point now where, again, I'm definitely over halfway, and I'm going through these boss rushes. And again, the bosses in Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown are so good, but my God, they are difficult. And again,
if I could pop in, that's actually one of the games I spent 3+ hours playing this week. Is beautiful. You've been suggesting it so much. I was like, oh, you know what? I've got it downloaded. I should just put in time into it. I want to say real quick, I won't get into too big. I don't want to take away from the games you're about to play, but
no, sure.
I'm 3 hours in. It is super challenging. The combat is way more challenging than I ever thought. The parry windows are so short. And above all else, as challenging as it is, and as much as I'm in the open explore portion where I can actually cool. Once the map starts showing up and you can actually head off into a few directions. The thing that I find very fascinating about this is that, one, nobody's talking about it, and two, nobody is mentioning how gorgeous of a video game it is. It's
right
for a Metroidvania. One, they have incredible voice acting. It is incredibly animated. The cutscenes seamlessly go between you playing the game into a cutscene, and they look like the exact same quality. They just have different camera angles. It's stunning, and also in the first 2 hours, you get to learn the entire lore and kind of meet the immortals, all the characters that you are. Your character are an immortal yourself, but you get to essentially fight alongside them, and that opening hour is super cinematic, super incredible looking. I'm surprised. I know you kept saying it. How has no one been talking about this game? This is such a stunning and fun game as of yet.
Yeah, I don't understand. I mean, I guess at the end of the day, Uno, the past few years that we've been living in have been so incredible when it comes to gaming, where stuff is constantly releasing every week, like blockbuster after blockbuster or hit indie title. Like, there's so much content out there for us gamers, which is great. But yeah, somehow this game snuck under the radar, and I think it's one of the best Metroidvanias I've ever played. Definitely one of the most challenging. Wait till you get to some of the platforming sections, Uno. When you start unlocking more and more abilities, the platforming in this is unbelievable. I borderline feel like I'm playing Kaizo Mario or something. It's incredible.
I haven't even unlocked any of the traversal stuff, and just wall bounce into hook, into wall bounce, into hook is oh wow, even at the very base, it has very challenging platforming. So I could only assume once I have double jumps and the dash throughs and so on. I'm very excited to get there.
It's so cool. All the different abilities you get really add a lot to not only the combat and the boss fights, which you do have to use these abilities, but also the platforming. And in addition to that, the last game, once again, Silent Hill 2 Remake as far as the 5-game cycle on Twitch, but currently going through Brookhaven Hospital. And I think it's my favorite section of the game so far. I think I'm a little over halfway through Silent Hill 2 Remake. But again, I know I've mentioned this before, but I just love so much the extensions they put on the the remake of Silent Hill 2, because it is still Silent Hill 2 at its core, but they've just added so much more stuff. It's horrifying. So many great puzzles. Silent Hill 2 Remake is absolutely incredible. But Uno, in addition to that, of course, every single day, opening up packs, Pokemon trading card game pockets, still going
every
there.
day.
And Uno, I wanted to tell you, I think you'll be proud of me. I'm not fighting other people yet, but I am going through the training battles, the solo battles, and I'm now at the advanced part. So I'm trying to get the hang of it. I'm like, I gotta learn how to fight in Pokemon Trading Card Game Pocket, and I'm really enjoying it. But also, Uno, we had a snow day here back home, and fortunately, I was locked in my house with my brother, who is the guy who got me into video games. He loves them. I love gaming with him. Uno, we played so many games, such a wide variety of stuff. We were doing Halo Combat Evolved from the Master Chief Collection multiplayer. We did some Time Splitters 2 on the original Xbox multiplayer. My goodness, we also started Donkey Kong Country Returns HD, which recently released on Switch. It's great. Me and him both just passed the controllers and took time back and forth playing each level. It's awesome. So much so that my Nintendo Switch OLED, I'm really running out of space. And I thought, I'm going to wait. I'm not going to get a 1 terabyte SD card. Currently, I have a 256 gig SD card. I'm like, I'm going to wait till the Switch do. I can't wait. I got the 1 terabyte SD card so I can download Donkey Kong Country Returns. I want to download Mario Party Jamboree. So many great Switch games that I want to add to my collection still. But yeah, Donkey Kong Country Returns HD, very, very good. I loved Tropical Freeze. This one is just more of amazing 2D Donkey Kong platforming. It's so nice to be back.
And so this is the remake of a 3DS one, if I remember correctly, right?
I think so. I think this originally released on Wii. I believe so. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure Donkey Kong Country Returns was a Wii title, and this HD version is just an upgraded version of that one. But it's a very, very good game. Very good game. Maybe Wii U, but definitely in that era. And in addition to that, me and my brother also started a playthrough of As Dusk Falls.
That's the story game that came out on Xbox, correct?
Right. Which now it's available, I think, on PlayStation as well. It was a timed exclusive. But the decision-based game with the really interesting art style that's very story-heavy. The story is awesome. And the thing I love the most about it is me and my brother were playing it, and we played through this one section, and all of a sudden the credits hit, and we were like, man, oh, what a good game. Kind of left us on a cliffhanger, but man, what a good game. No, that's part 1. The game is like so much longer. So me and my brother were like, no way. Oh, this is awesome. Just, again, highly recommend it if you're interested in a really, really good story where your decisions absolutely drastically impact the way that the story plays out. As Dusk Falls is awesome. So
I played really first 3 chapters of that game, and speaking alongside with someone that was playing it, both he and I had different chapters 2 and 3 almost entirely, at least on who your party, although it's not a normal video game, but like my party of people was so dramatically different than his. I'd be very excited to talk about again this one to see where you head off to for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And then the last thing, Uno, before I pass it off to you, because again, I could just keep going forever. This entire episode could be this section of what we were playing if we wanted it to be. But I know we gotta get to the news. Right. I love it. It was such a good week for gaming. But also, again, I was able to watch the Xbox Developer Direct, which we will discuss later on in today's episode. But in addition to that, I was also able to finally showcase and play Ender Magnolia, which is the sequel to Ender Lilies. Ender Lilies is seriously top 3, one of my favorite Metroidvanias of all time. I was beyond excited for this game. I feel like it snuck up on me, so it was a very pleasant surprise that Ender Magnolia is here. Uno, I played about 4 hours. It's incredible. It literally is just a bigger and better and more beautiful Ender Lilies. And I don't mean that in any way as a disservice. It has the exact same vibe, the exact same music. The combat is incredible. They've just extended even more on this idea. And I'm also very excited to kind of see where the story goes. When the opening menu, when the menu theme played, and it's incredibly similar to the original Ender Lilies, I had chills. And so far, it has not let me down at all. I can't wait to continue this game. There's a very good chance that after I finish Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, this game's going to be going into my 5-game cycle. Ender Magnolia rules. So good.
I actually have a question because so I ended up playing through Ender Lilies on your recommendation. I really liked it. I saw this game and I downloaded it for this week as well. I didn't get to put any time into it because I put a ton of time into these other games I'm about to talk to.
Yeah.
But have they changed anything about the combat system? Is it still about what weaponry, what spell I pick up, and what attributes I assign to it, or have they changed anything in this new iteration to like dramatically change the combat?
Yeah, so it's incredibly similar in the sense of you are walking by and then first you discover your main spirit. So it's the same idea that the main character kind of backs away as the spirit does the attack. Each character has different abilities, but the very cool thing that they added about this one is so far I picked up 4 different spirits, which you can have 4 equipped at one time, which is awesome, all with different abilities. But not only do all these different spirits have different abilities, but each spirit has like 3 different moves they can do. So for example, with your main character, you start off with this sword, but then if you find the proper materials, you can switch to a scythe, or you could switch to an axe. Then you find another character who I had that does like a blazing fist, which sets the enemy on fire. But then there's also a move that you can unlock if you get the right materials that like freezes the enemy. So it does different elemental damage. Break damage is very, very important, which is almost like a shield to get them staggered to then really do some serious physical damage. There's a character with that like shoots a gun that you can just continuously hold to help with the break damage. But it's very, very cool. So once again, it absolutely is more Ender Lilies, but just extending on that thought process.
I ain't mad.
Even
I'm
more
not
so.
mad.
So yeah, it's awesome. It's really, really good. And again, it's even more beautiful than the original game. There's just the map is incredible. I've already run this early into the game, run into the situation where there's 2 paths that I can go.
Yes.
And I'm literally, going back and forth trying to decide which would be the better path to go to first. I'm having that Metroidvania problem that so many people have. But it's, oh my God, it's incredible. I could tell it's going to be one of my favorite Metroidvanias. I just love the feel, the vibe. It feels so crispy to play. It's awesome. Boss fights are great. Really, really good, Uno.
Well, I'm very excited to put some time into it. I'm sure we'll talk about it more in the coming weeks because I have it downloaded and ready to go, and I really enjoyed Ender Lilies, and so I will definitely be putting time into it. And it's crazy. It's
awesome.
I mean, January, we already have probably one of your Game of the Years is already out, which and there's only so much more coming out. I'm very excited.
Right. God. What about you, Uno? What else have you been playing?
So obviously, I talked about Witcher. I talked about the Prince of Persia game that I put a time into. I finally got access to my PlayStation again, so I put in some Fortnite gaming time in there. I did say last week I was going to talk about it. Godzilla is now an unlockable character. They added Godzilla skins, including King Kong from the movie, and including Mecha Godzilla, which is like the robotic Godzilla. That I purchased both. I'm a big Godzilla boy. But what's very interesting in this one is that so there's a slew of new missions you can unlock. There's a mid-season now with Godzilla as an unlockable. I believe you get 20 levels. You unlock 2 different Godzilla skins. What's really neat now is that if you're lucky, within the map, there's one singular portal. And if you're the first to achieve entering this portal, you become Godzilla, and essentially you're much like Godzilla in the movies. You're larger than the cities within the video game, and you're practically invincible. You stomp on enemies. You can shoot your blast everywhere. It is really fun to play as, but it's almost extremely cheap to play as. But it's a very rare, very, very, very rare occasion because, one, it needs to land within the storm, so it needs to happen within the time limit that the 100 players are there, and then you have to be lucky enough to be the first one to get there. It's not something I've achieved a lot, but it is very, very fun, and I foresee myself playing more Fortnite in the coming weeks. One, because the season's about to end, I think in mid-February, but also I need to unlock all of those Godzilla skins and Godzilla emotes and stuff. Other stuff. So I played a handful of independent games as well. One game I got on sale. So last few weeks there was a winter sale, and I purchased this game during the winter sale, but I hadn't put time into it. It's called Cobalt Core. And what it is essentially, it's another one of those deck building games that I love. So it's about having a handful of cards and using those cards to either, have attack, defend or influence stuff like get turrets or get a secondary opponents to try and fight your enemies. But what's different about this one that's very neat is that it has like a space mechanic to it where you get a spaceship and you can add modules to your spaceship. Each module can have a different thing. So you can have a cannon, you can have a module that pulls out turrets. You can have modules that have a blank space, so if they shoot towards that module, it doesn't hurt you. You have other modules that have wings, so if you don't use all of your energy, the wings can retract, and so you don't get shot there. And then it's kind of like a tactics game where your positioning of your own spaceship compared to their spaceship is going to determine where you get hit and by how much you get hit. So on top of it being a card game, it's also about trying to think 2 actions in advance so that if you do get shot, you take the minimal amount of damage from it. It's been very interesting. It's been very neat. It's very fun. Like, it's got a time loop mechanic. You play 3 full rounds, so maybe a complete run is about 30 minutes tops. And then it spits you back to the beginning. You get to do a different loop. You get different characters. Those characters unlock different cards. It's right up my alley. I'm surprised nobody was talking about it. It is something I definitely enjoy. And if you are into deck buildings, which I talk about once a week, I talk about a different one. I'm always jumping into new ones. Cobalt Core, a lot of fun, available on Steam right now. And then my latest fascination, I'm going to be talking a lot about this, but I got to tell you right now, I don't think anyone else is going to like this game. Oh yes, this is my heads up. It's called Proverbs, and what it is, and you're going to see me Twitch stream it all week probably. It's, first of all, it opens up on a giant painting. And the giant painting, you can see shadows in it, but you don't see what the painting is. And as you zoom in, it becomes a Minesweeper Picross game with sections. And essentially, you have to do Minesweeper sections to unlock part of the map. I've played 5 hours of this already. I'm only 18% through it. Wow. All it is clicking numbers and unclicking numbers, but somehow I am so enamored with this game, and all I want to do is play it until I complete these 100. As you unlock the map, it'll populate, like, because it's in pixels, but it'll show you the real image of what you've opened up, and they're typically like little jokes in the style of like Monty Python, for example, where like the little painted imagery is its joke on its own. And that's kind of the layers of it. You do the little puzzles, you unlock a section, it shows you an image, and you keep going. It's not for everyone. I know this for sure. Proverbs is probably not for most video game players, but for me, literally all I think about now. I went to bed and I could see the numbers when I was dreaming. And today, I've scheduled a Twitch stream just to play several hours, so I feel like I'm at least doing something as I'm doing this.
Uno, it's quite simple. It's quite simple.
Yes.
It's because you're a puzzle master.
It's true.
We've talked about this. Evil Uno is the puzzle master, so this makes a ton of sense.
Yes, it adds up. It definitely adds up for as canonically, this is what I am. But if you're into puzzles like I am, you like Sudoku or you like Picross or you like Minesweeper, this is one for you. Instead of a bite-sized version, it's just as blown out and large as humanly possible. And for some reason, that's all it took for me to get addicted. Came out late last year. You can play it on Steam, and that's what I've been playing and will likely be playing all week.
Uno, can I very quickly, unless you have more games you were going to discuss?
No, get in there. Get in there.
I very quickly was going to mention just a trailer that I saw.
Yes.
The Phantom Blade Zero Year of the Snake gameplay trailer. Have you seen this?
No, I have not. What's this?
Okay. Uno, the second we're done with this, and everyone who's listening to this, please YouTube Phantom Blade Zero Year of the Snake gameplay trailer. So obviously, Phantom Blade Zero, I believe, was shown like just very briefly at Summer Games Fest last year. Well, they released a boss fight. Wait till you see this. It's some of the coolest action RPG gameplay that I've ever seen. First of all, the music is incredible. It has like this heavy metal music that comes in on like the second phase of this boss fight, but the parrying and the movement and how crisp everything looks, it looks so cool. I cannot wait to get my hands on this game. Once again, Phantom Blade Zero, Year of the Snake, its gameplay trailer. One of the coolest video game trailers I've seen in a very long time as far as showcasing what the gameplay is all about. And again, Uno, I think this game is going to be right up our alley. I think it'll be right up a lot of people's alleys.
I'm watching it right now.
It's so sick. Oh, nice. It's incredible. It is so cool. So
yeah, this looks stunning.
That. What was that?
This looks stunning. The parry system on this looks insane, especially because you're fighting like 7 enemies at once.
Right.
This looks really
beautiful. Cool. Yeah, definitely. And make sure later on that you watch it with sound on, because when the music kicks in, oh boy, it's awesome. So everyone definitely go check out that trailer. It looks amazing.
That's it. Did you have any other games that you played? I know obviously not. If you jumped into a YouTube video, I would assume that's all the ones you put hands on.
Yes, I am also finished. I know we could talk and go on and on, but I think that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it for me.
I have a whole other list of independent games I'm probably going to be jumping into by next week. This is going to be another big video game week, so do tune in. Yeah. Make sure you hit that subscription button. Our episode drops every Monday. Or you can watch it on youtube.com/AEW Games Monday as well. It drops at noon Eastern Standard Time. But that's not all for today. We actually have a decent amount of news, and we're going to talk about it right after this. And we're back. It is finally time to talk about the news of the week. There's a lot, but before we do so, do you want news about AEW? Well, do you want to be an AEW insider? Get early access to ticket pre-sales, special merchandise offers, and more straight to your inbox. All you got to do is sign up today at awtix.com and get all the information straight to you. We've got some news this week. We teased it earlier, but Xbox dropped a developer direct just a few days ago, and one of the things I like about Xbox is that they give their developers a lot of time to talk about their video games, and a lot of times I find that's the best way, because no one is more enamored and more in tune with what their game is than the people who are working on it.
100%.
In this one, we got to see, and we'll talk about these, but we got to see a little more of South of Midnight. We saw more of Clair Obscur Expedition 33 and more of Doom the Dark Ages. We'll talk about that in a minute. All of those games announced. What wasn't announced, and this was the stuff that I thought was super surprising, and also very surprising that obviously neither of us were in tune with this, but no hint of this coming out before this announcement. But
nope.
Ninja Gaiden is coming back. And not just one game, 2 games. Ninja Gaiden 2 Black Revamp, which is a revamp of the 2008 title Ninja Gaiden 2, which I believe was on Xbox 360. They made a remastered Definite Edition that is in the Unreal Engine 5, and not only did they remake this game, they shadow dropped it the day of the and you know what? I think we've talked about this before. Nothing makes me happier in video games than when they shadow drop a video game and I could just play it right away.
It's so true.
This game, so I've never played the Ninja Gaiden games after the original 3 on NES. So I am not in tune with the third-person action game versions. I hear they're extremely difficult.
Dude, so hard. A few months ago, Uno, I decided I'm going to stream Ninja Gaiden Sigma, which I believe is just a remade version of Ninja Gaiden Black. And, dude, I got to the second level, and there's a boss that you have to fight. Couldn't beat him. I literally died maybe 20 times. These Ninja Gaiden games are difficult. They are very, very hard. They're awesome, but man, they're tough.
Yeah, they're notorious for being this difficult. And from my understanding, Ninja Gaiden 2 is no different. It is very, very hard. But now you can get your ass kicked on Unreal Engine 5.
Yeah.
That's not all, though. That would be enough of an announcement. But on top of that, Team Ninja is collaborating with Platinum Games, who did Bayonetta. They're one of my favorite developers ever. And they're making Ninja Gaiden 4. It will feature the return of the original protagonist, Ryu Hayabusa, and it comes out in fall of this year. It's a brand new Ninja Gaiden game. And they didn't even just show a little bit of this game. They had a whole 15 minutes dedicated to showing footage, having developers talk about it. If you want to go check that out, YouTube has the Xbox Developer Direct. You should, because they showed a lot about this.
They definitely did. Again, I'm beyond hyped that Platinum Games and Team Ninja is going to work together on this game, Ninja Gaiden 4. I also love, too, of course, I love that Ryu is making a return. Obviously, he is Ninja Gaiden. But I'm also excited about this new protagonist, Yakumo, who looks, and also based on the trailer, seems to play completely different than Ryu. So I think that aspect of the combat, adding more abilities, different moves, different play styles to this game is going to be awesome, because I'll tell you, the footage of Ryu looked awesome, but the footage of Yakumo looked incredible. Absolutely
he's like a
incredible.
cyborg ninja of some kind. He looks cool as hell.
Right. I loved the setting of the world. It looked so cool. And again, just to briefly mention, for them to show all this footage of Ninja Gaiden 4 and how great it looked, and for that to be a complete surprise, just again, I have to reiterate what you said. When game devs decide also, hey, there's something else we're working on and it's available today, it's the most hyped you could possibly be. It was such a good call, because Ninja Gaiden 2 Black, the revamp, looks amazing. The footage of this looks awesome. So, and again, for Ninja Gaiden 4 to be dropping in fall of 2025, it's going to be available day one on Game Pass. Ninja Gaiden 2 Black revamp is available right now on Game Pass.
Yes.
It was a very good showing. What a way to kick off the Xbox Developer Direct. Man.
Which is good. Honestly, I feel like Xbox needs to hammer home how special Game Pass is, and just having access to this. And also, you're gonna find out about all the video games and their date and when you're gonna get access to them in a minute. But like, further proving there's at least one giant title that comes out every single month on top of the 100 other games you can get on Game Pass. It is well worth the price for sure. So that comes out in fall, but we have a slew of video games that are actually coming out in spring. South of Midnight, that is the New Orleans-based voodoo third-person magic action-venture game that is set in the Deep South. They showed a bunch of footage about this. I love the art style of this video game, but what I really liked is they showed fights with giant alligators, giant catfish. We saw a ton of clips, but we didn't see the game a lot in action. This had a lot of gameplay, and it looks stunning. It looks super fascinating with like the world setting, and the voice acting sounded incredible in the little bit that they did show. They announced that's coming out on PC and Xbox Series X and S on the 8th of April, so we don't even have to wait very long. It's coming out in a few months. Very excited to play South of Midnight.
Same here. Again, Uno, just to briefly mention, like you had said, I love the stop motion art style. It's very original. It looks beautiful. I love the idea of them kind of discovering the folklore of the Deep South and again, the different really, really large enemies, the kind of magical vibe that this game has. The combat looks really, really fun. It looks really interesting. But again, the thing that grabbed me immediately was that stop motion art style. I absolutely want to check this out, because April 8th is not that far. I think this game's going to be a sleeper hit for Xbox.
I think so too, for sure. And like, it looks so different from everything else. I feel like if it rates very high, people are going to be talking about this game for the rest of the year for sure. That's not all. There's more games that they also announced. They talked about. Let me just. I keep having a hard drive setting that keeps popping in and out. Let me pop this bad boy off here. There it is. Clair Obscur Expedition 33. We had a tease about this. This is the France-inspired fantasy RPG that looks like a Persona game, but instead of it being animated, is 3D rendered, almost realistically 3D rendered. They showed a lot about this, including playable characters, all of their unique mechanics. So each playable character has like their own talent tree that really expands on what type of job they're going to lead into. You know, you wanted to be a medic, you want to be magic, so on and so forth. A ton of passive effects to equip throughout there, a ton of equipment as well. real-time combat, which means you actually have to fire and dodge at specific times. So it's not turn-based RPG. It's action-based RPG, which I think is very interesting. We've seen a very large move from turn-based to action. I prefer action at this point.
Well, Uno,
ahead,
what I like about this one though too is it's still at the end of the day it is turn based in the sense of you will choose your action or whatever. But I love, like you said, it requires you to do different things within that turn based action. Like you said, you have to parry or dodge, or like you have to time your hit. You're still making the decision like it's turn based, but it keeps you so much more engaged. Like I love when games do this, kind of like on a much smaller scale. Not to say this game is small, just a bit simpler in this sense, but like the Paper Mario games, how you have to like time the jumps or
you
time the guards. You want to make
sure you jump at that exact frames to get the double the damage and stuff. Yeah,
so
I
prefer
cool. I prefer a video game, especially if you're gonna do RPG and I'm gonna say waste my time, but not waste my time. But as in like if you're gonna make a lengthy experience, when I'm actually playing the video game, I want to be as active as humanly possible. And so this is a very good middle ground between both for sure. And then, so if you have the right skill, you can take advantage of it. You can dodge, you can block, and you could really help your battles. Or you could just let it play and take the damage and just do the best of it. But having both worlds is very interesting. And that is also coming out in April 24th.
Yes, again, another big April release. And I just do want to say as well, I think it's great that Xbox has this title coming to its console. I think a cool, long RPG on Xbox sounds like a great idea. And again, in addition to the battle mechanics seeming really cool, and they also discussed how like some characters can be offensive characters or defensive characters. But what I loved, and they made sure to mention this, is a great RPG needs to be focused on a great story. So they are very committed to saying that this story is an incredible one. I love the idea that a lot of the characters are flawed in their own ways. They all have strengths and weaknesses, and they're all doing what they're doing for different reasons. Again, the concept of this game is so fascinating to me, with it being again, I'm just talking very broad here, but there being a god of some sort that decides to put a number in the sky or somewhere, for example, 33, and then that means everyone who's 33 and over just disappears and disintegrates, and that number changes every year. So what a cool concept and a cool theory. So again, I think this game story-wise also seems incredibly interesting, in addition to the awesome open world you can explore, beautiful art style, and again, a classic RPG on Xbox sounds awesome.
Yeah, big time. And then also, not to reiterate, but Game Pass is that much better because this game comes on day one, and it's supposed to be 60-plus hours of experience. So you get that day one. If you're a Game Pass user, you are eating well this year because we're getting all kinds of games. Baby. And then the other one, this one is not a surprise. We knew the Dark Ages was coming out. The third of the new Doom series. This one is based essentially in the past, before the original Doom, and it is way more focused on less of the platforming that was in Eternal, and this one is way more on the combat and being... It's funny because they said it's a slower but fast-paced game. So, like, the combat itself is less about shooting 20 bullets and more about using a shield to deflect one thing, to then shoot a giant bullet at this enemy, to then swerve right to dodge 6 other bullets, to do the same to someone else. It looks... I mean, all the Doom games have looked stunning, but this one looks incredible. I love the setting. It's much darker. Unfortunately, the soundtrack will not be by the same person that made the first two. And I will say from the trailer, that was the only thing that I was capable of picking up on, that I was like, it would have been better with him on the team.
Sure.
But it looks very ambitious. They have cut the multiplayer entirely from this game to focus more on the single player, which is not an issue with me because I'm predominantly a single player video game player. It looks great. I'm a Doom guy all the way through, and that comes out May 15th and also launching on Game Pass day one. So an extra reason to get Game Pass. Doom: The Dark Ages comes out very, very soon.
Absolutely. This to me was the highlight. I think it deserved the main event spot. I love Doom 2016. I love Doom Eternal. Again, id went out of their way to say this is the most ambitious title that they've made. And I loved this quote from one of the devs where he said, Doom 2016 was run and gun. Doom Eternal was run and jump. Doom The Dark Ages is stand and fight. It was just such a cool way to describe what the gameplay is going to be like. Again, the shield looks really, really cool. A bunch of the weapons that you get seems really cool. I love the idea of this being a prequel to Doom 2016 to kind of see how we got there. So it does make sense as well, playstyle-wise, why that would be the case. But again, this is going to be more Doom. This is going to be more modern Doom, and modern Doom can't win or can't not win. It's just an incredible series. I cannot wait for Doom: The Dark Ages. This one is absolutely gonna knock it out of the park.
Yeah, if the quality is anything like 2016 or Eternal, this might be the best series of Doom games we've had. I mean, it's hard to say ever because there's so many that are good, but the quality has been insane as of yet. Very excited for more ID stuff. And I'd be excited to find out what ID's working on after this, too.
Me too. Yeah, whatever they touch, they really are. When you look at like trust in a first-person shooter developer, I think id is like the most trustworthy FPS developer. I mean, they just got it. They crush it every single time. I love too, this is a small addition, but they added like an accessibility option where like you can make the game as fast or as slow as you would like, which I think is really appealing to maybe people who think Doom is a little too fast for them. So giving people the chance to play the game if maybe they weren't interested before. But yeah, this is going to be incredible. And you're right, I'm excited to see what else they work on.
This is a day one for me for sure. So if you're interested in all of that, you can go to YouTube. Xbox has it all over their YouTube. Xbox Developer Direct 2025. Check out all of those trailers. I'm very excited for the spring because we get a whole lot of video games available to us, especially if you're a Game Pass user. Next up, here's a little bit of bad news. Celeste, you might know it. Personally, one of my favorite platforming independent games maybe ever. One of the best stories, incredible soundtrack, and then incredible post-launch content too when they added all the extra levels and the extra difficulties. Bad news. The people that made Celeste and Towerfall were working on a pixel art platformer named Earthblade, but unfortunately they've gone out and publicly said that they will be canceling this platformer to focus on smaller scale projects. This comes between a IP rights dispute for Celeste because there was a fracture between co-founders of the original launch, and essentially because of this, a lot of their time were invested on these disputes, which led to less time invested on this video game. And realizing the scope of what video game they were aiming for, they realized that it is way too big for them to be working on something like that. And so they've decided that they're going to shorten their games, make smaller video games so that they can release stuff more quickly. What they said is they lost their way in the process of making this video game, and the scope of it had become too big. And so, bad news, because I definitely am excited on more stuff from Celeste, but I'm sure they will repurpose what they have built into a much smaller project, and I'm very excited to see what they do end up making in the future.
Yeah, me as well. Obviously, like you said, Uno, unfortunate news, but yeah, very excited to see what project they end up working on in the future.
And then here's some news for you, specifically Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 3. It will not be a PlayStation 6 exclusive. It will come across all consoles. Now, that sounds like exciting news, but do take into note this part. It will be available on multiple platforms, including PS5, PC, and possibly Xbox and Switch 2, but it's also expected to align with a potential PlayStation 6 launch in 2027. Now, this is the first time I think we actually have a ballpark of when the next console cycle might start. I don't know. Now, I'm excited at the idea of more Final Fantasy VII, and I'm excited at the prospect of a next console because it means advancing video games even further. I just don't know if I'm ready for a new console cycle already. 2027 is only 2 years away. I feel like we just started. but it has been over 5 years already. So
it has. And to me too, Uno, this also kind of lines up is FF7 Remake originally dropped on PS4, FF7 Rebirth dropped on PS5. It makes sense that the third entry in this series or in this trilogy is going to be on PS6. Obviously, I want it as soon as possible. But man, the way they have talked about how massive Part 3 is going to be and how you're going to be able to explore every single part of the world within Final Fantasy VII makes me think, yeah, it makes so much sense that it would be on next-gen consoles. But you're right. It both feels like the 9th generation has just started. But again, we're entering in November of this year. It'll be year 5 that we've gone into the Xbox Series X and PS5.
And typically it goes from like 7 to 9 years on a cycle. So 2027 would line up to about 7 years. And I'm sure because of how the advancement in video games is a little slower than it used to be, we'll probably be playing PS6 and PS5 games simultaneously for maybe a year or two as well. This is all rumors, though. There's a very good chance it gets pushed back, but very, very odd little tidbit of information that came with this Final Fantasy stuff that I guess we'll have to wait till 2027 much closer, but I'm very excited to play more of it, especially knowing that if they're going to make it forward-focused on the next console launch, this is going to be a stunning video game, I would think.
Oh, yeah.
And then final news piece, because I feel like we need to address it.
We do, don't we?
We have no choice. Last show, myself and Chugs went real heavy on this rumor about Hollow Knight Silksong potentially being unveiled on the Nintendo Switch 2 press conference in April 2nd. This all came around a rumored ARG because a developer of the video game changed his profile picture to a cake. That cake, if you reverse image search, gave you the date April 2nd, and everyone went insane. Well, the devs have gone out and said that the ARG is not real.
No!
That the cake is a lie. And
the cake is a lie, Uno. The cake is a lie.
We've been and finally the rumors and the video game history finally clashes together, and the cake is a lie. But they did say the game is real processing and will release, but they have set no date, no time. They just kept it open-handed or open-ended. I just wanted to address it because we were so
convinced.
I'm still not convinced that they're not lying, but also it's terrible messaging to go out there and tease something and then go back and be like, it's not real. So
this just shows you how absolutely wild Silksong fans are. Me and you included.
Yes.
Convinced.
We're on the verge of the crazy. We're on the very end of the spectrum of anyone that's crazy about Silksong. And even us, we're like, the cake must be, it's gotta be, it means something. It's gotta mean something.
To Team Cherry, this should just mean, once again, I know they've been hearing it over and over again, but Team Cherry, you've got a ton of people who are very, very excited for your game.
Let me give you money already.
Yeah, right. Take it.
Very excited to find out about Silksong, whenever the hell that is. At this point, we're never going to talk about it. I'm done. We're never teasing when it's going to be released again. No. Just release information and then shadow drop it. That's the only way around it. That's it for the news of the week. If we missed any news that you think we would like to talk about, put it down below in our comment section, youtube.com/AEW Games. Get down in that comment section. Evil Uno reads them every single week. We appreciate your support, and hit that follow button as well. Hey, Chugs, it's time for our favorite segment of the show. It happens right after this. And we're back. It is time for the final segment of this show, brought to you by our friends at Upper Deck. Upper Deck, thank you so much for sponsoring the community mailbag. Collect your favorite wrestlers in 2024's Upper Deck AEW and start your trading card collection today. Unwrapped autograph, memorabilia, and premium tech inserts. As always, Chugs, what do we have this week?
Uno, I got a fresh pack this week. Are we ready to go through it?
I'm ready.
I think so.
Ooh, we got Taz. We got Sheeta. Whoa, I actually kind of forgot Kota Ibushi worked for us.
Kota Ibushi, baby. Oh, that's our first Kota card.
That's the Kingdom.
Yep. There
We've
go.
got
And oh yeah, Prince Nana.
Mid Dance. Orange Cassidy on a canvas. Thunder Rosa,
Ooh,
Heroines and Heroines.
Nice.
The House of Black, all three of them on a card.
Beautiful.
Kenny Omega, who just returned recently.
Yes, he did. Oh,
Roderick
Strong.
Hey, your pal.
There we go. Oh, yeah.
Action Andretti, look at him. He's so glistening.
Nice.
And Excalibur.
Excalibur.
Hey,
oh, good.
Excalibur
good
and Taz
good
one after the other. It was meant to be. Get your AEW packs as well as other sports memorabilia and other sports cards. Go to upperdeck.com to learn more. Thank you, Upper Deck, for sponsoring this segment. We've got three questions today, Chugs. How about you do the honors and go up and do the first one?
Yeah, I'll start things off. Once again, thank you everyone for sending in your questions. And first question is from Joey. Joey, thank you very much. Joey says, "Hey guys, love the podcast." Thank you. Hey. Do you think hyped games only have one shot to succeed? And by that, I mean, do you think if a game has a bad launch, then that's all she wrote? Or is it possible to have a crappy launch and then come back from the dead? Obviously, there are exceptions like No Man's Sky and Cyberpunk that turn things around after rough launches, but they seem to be the exception of the rule. Is it possible for games like Skull and Bones, Anthem, to achieve the same widespread recognition? Do you think Concord could have turned it around with enough time? Joey, thank you very much for the question.
So I definitely think it's possible. I think, No Man's Sky and Cyberpunk are examples of it. The main issue with these games launching and not have a great initial success is that for them to turn it around, you have to have a developer and a publisher willing to drop more and more money in the hopes of it making money in the future. Yes. No Man's Sky is such an insane idea that as long as they keep funding it, at some point it would reach its potential. And so you could see the forward focus in that video game. It wasn't about the launch, it was about several years down the line, these are all the things we're going to add to it. Cyberpunk is a game that was slightly undercooked, but is a game from such a renowned developer that would never allow for their game to just completely come out on a whimper. You knew they were going to do it better on it. And they eventually were going to do a big DLC piece, so there is a forward focus on that. I think the issue with Concord, Anthem, and so on is that they launched and instantly their developers and publishers were not willing for it to last any longer than that launch. It really does come down to, are those publishers and developers willing to spend more years and more money on keeping it around, and less can the game be turned around? Because I think almost any game can be turned around with enough attention. Is that attention worth the money for those developers? And so while I think it is definitely possible for any game to turn it around, I think it is rare for it to happen because it does involve a lot of funds, a lot of marketing to try and counteract that initial vitriol for the video game.
Yeah. Uno, that was like the perfect answer. I agree with literally everything that you just said. You're 100% right. And I think, too, again, similar to what Uno said, I think it's possible for any video game to kind of turn around and be really well liked by their audience and be given a second chance and things like that. But again, it is incredibly difficult. That launch is such an important time for a game, and that perception of that game at that time. But again, too, I think also developers being very open and honest with themselves and being willing to listen to criticism, I think, from the audience itself, the people who are buying the game and playing the game, I think is also very, very important. Again, CD Projekt Red went out of their way. They refused. They went, we are going to make Cyberpunk a game not only that works really well, but a game that's incredible. And now look at it. The best story by far is, again, No Man's Sky. That is such an incredible story, from what people thought to what they think now. And I wish every video game that had a rough launch had that experience. But again, like you had mentioned, Joey, it is incredibly rare. But I think with the right resources, with the right commitment, with being open-minded, and just, again, the full-blown commitment to your project, even if initially people didn't like it, I think absolutely anything's possible in the world of video games, and that includes bad launches. So, Joey, thank you very much for your question.
Yeah, great question, Joey. Thank you so much for sending
Great
it
question.
in. Next question is from Ben. Ben says, "Hey, Chugs and Uno. I am loving the podcast and try to catch your streams whenever I can. You'll see me lurk in both of your chats under Red X Ben. Well, we've seen you in there.
Nice.
My question to you two is this. What little-known game title or series do you wish to turn more people onto or get more attention to? I love a good hidden treasure, and I have dozens I could go on about, like the fantastic Mega Man-like Azure Striker Gunvolt and the great dogfighting action game Project Wingman, as well as the action RPG series Wise. I believe that's how that's pronounced. So what are the titles that you played immensely but maybe aren't on the most gamers' radars, and give us the pitch to make us need it in our lives? Thanks for what you do in and out of the ring. Much love to you both. Much love to you, Ben. Thank you very much.
Ben, great question. And absolutely, immediately, the first thing that comes to mind, I talked about it earlier today, but Ender Magnolia or Ender Lilies. Again, this is this is a Metroidvania that has done such an unbelievable job of capturing such a great feeling, if that makes sense. There's so much. The vibe that Ender Lilies has is unlike any Metroidvania I've played. It's not Dark Souls, but the vibe of Dark Souls, there's nothing else like that game in the world of gaming, I think, as far as the atmosphere and things like that. In Ender Lilies, I feel the exact same way when it comes to Metroidvanias. The combat is incredibly original. There's a ton of different play styles you can do, different spirits you can use. Again, the OST, I still to this day listen to the OST all the time. It's one of the best gaming soundtracks I've ever listened to. If you like Metroidvanias, this is one of the best ones. I really believe that. Once again, Ender Lilies was the original. The sequel, Ender Magnolia, just dropped. So if you are in any way, shape, or form a Metroidvania fan and you have not played Ender Lilies or Ender Magnolia, do it. I promise it's going to be one of your favorite games. It's so good.
You know what? I would do a feather in my cap on that one too. Or is that the expression? It doesn't matter. What I'm saying is, yes, play those video games. I would highly suggest those as well. Now that Chugs has put me onto them, they're well worth your time, especially considering nobody talks about them. It's very surprising how little attention they get for how good they are. You will cry. The music will make you cry. Go out your way and play.
Yeah.
I actually have a series of games, but it's all by one developer, Grasshopper Games. You might know him under the title Suda51. Suda is a person who makes weird games, and one series that I like a whole lot that he makes is called No More Heroes. There's been 3 titles and a secondary title that was a bunch of little mini games. The latest one is No More Heroes 3, and what it is essentially is you are an assassin and you are doing minute jobs like lawn mowing or Crazy Taxi style delivery games to make enough money to then go and boss fight a assassin in a lightsaber duel, and that is kind of like the constant loop of the video game. What's really neat about it is that it never plays itself seriously. It's very tongue-in-cheek. It has an immense amount of pro wrestling in it. Suda51 is a huge pro wrestling fan, so there's a bunch of wrestling moves, there's a bunch of wrestling iconography and t-shirts and stuff within the video game, and it just features insane boss battles. Now, if you don't like those games, he's make other stuff as well, including Lollipop Chainsaw or Shadow of the Damned. They're games that are not perfect, but they have so many interesting ideas. They're things that I really, really like. And so if you go out of your way and play No More Heroes, especially 2 or 3, I don't think you'll be disappointed. Go and check those out for sure. And support any future Suda51 games because they need them. They're really weird and they never sell for very much comparatively to your big AAA projects. Thank you, Ben. Great question.
Yeah, great question. And we have our final question here, last but not least, Lebowski. This is from Lebowski. Hey, Chugs and Uno. This question may be geared more for Chugs, but Uno, please feel free to jump in. Why is it massive news that Ciri is the main character of Witcher 4? I already love this question. Please don't interpret this question as a shoot, but coming from someone who's only played the first Witcher and watched the Netflix series. I'm sure the show didn't translate the best version of her character from Witcher 3 or the books, so I'd love to understand why Ciri being the protagonist is huge in the world of Witcher fans. Uno, I would love to kick this one off and then send it to you if that's okay.
Please go.
But my goodness. Again, for anyone who is a fan of The Witcher, whether that be the books, the television show, or most importantly, the games, the Witcher 3 specifically, the way that that game played out and the way that it ended, Ciri is the focal point of the Witcher game, specifically in The Witcher 3. She is an incredibly important character, the most powerful character, the one that everyone, including Geralt, is trying to protect. And there are little sections within The Witcher 3 where you get the chance to play as Ciri, and it is so much fun. It is such a blast. To the point where when I finished this game in 2015, and I was immediately imagining what Witcher 4 was going to be like, me and so many other Witcher fans not only assumed but hoped that Ciri was going to be the protagonist, was going to be the main character in The Witcher 4. So I think Witcher 3 fans, or Witcher fans in general, should be incredibly excited. And I think most are very, very excited that you're getting to play as Ciri. I want to know more about her character. I want to be able to play more as Ciri because, again, she is a focal point, a main point within the Witcher world. So to me, this makes all the sense in the world that Ciri is indeed the main character. I think it'll be very exciting to be able to tell a new Witcher story fully through her eyes. And I think that's the way that the game should be intended to be experienced. So I'm incredibly excited, and I think 1,000% it was the right call to have Ciri as the main character.
So in my opinion, I do want to say ahead of time, I've only played The Witcher 3. I have not completed the video games. I have not watched the TV series, not read the books, and I've not played Witcher 1 or 2. I have seen the trailers for Witcher 4 because I'm extremely, extremely excited for its launch. Here is my opinion on it. One, I think, yes, Ciri is your main character. I think in the climate of video games now, you'll see a shift towards female-focused or female-led third-party action games, and I feel like Ciri, yes, is your main character. But bold claim that I'm going to claim right now, I think it is a role reversal of Witcher 3, and you will play as Geralt, much like in the third game, you get to play as Ciri. I bet you there are sections. It's going to give you a Metal Gear Solid 2 situation where you.
I was going to say, are they going to Metal Gear Solid 2 us?
I think so. You'll play for like 10 to 15 hours before Geralt is reintroduced, and you realize, yes, you do get to also play as Geralt. I don't think you can make a Witcher game and not have him showcase in some sense. Now, I've not finished Witcher 3. Maybe he gets beheaded, and none of this makes sense. But I just don't think they can have invested so much in a TV series on him, several games on him, and the character not be present. I do think Ciri will be 70% of the first-person story, but I think a 30% chunk will either be much like in Witcher 3, where you're playing old missions as Geralt on your probably on your quest to find Geralt, which I think might be a great Witcher 4 quest, or he will be in a different section that you will get to be playing in that section in hopes that they reconnect at some point. I just cannot see myself playing that game and you never get to play as Geralt. I think it would disappoint people who have played Witcher 3. But I also think Ciri is your main protagonist and will be, at the very beginning at least, the main focus of the video game.
Man, I just got chills imagining. First of all, I love your idea, Uno, but just imagining like playing 10 or 15 hours of The Witcher 4. It's going awesome. All of a sudden, you hear like a fight going on in like the woods or something. Yeah. And you come out and Hunter Be Hunted starts playing, and there's Geralt, and you're fighting alongside Geralt, and that's your introduction to him. That'd be so sick.
Cool. That's your end of Act 1 scene right there. Yeah. I'm excited. I'm so excited for Witcher 4.
And you know what? You got to do it. You got to do
it. Also, I wouldn't hate if there was an act where I just create my own Witcher as well. and you get to, you know, like if it was a multiple act and you get to create your own. I don't know how that would play in the grand scope of things, but I think it is very interesting that in those games that are usually focused on your own experience, you don't get to have your own character in it. And I wouldn't hate if we got to that point at some point. Witcher 4 might not be it. May not be it. We know there's another. They've announced a whole new trilogy, so I'm assuming there'll be more in the future. But I bet you that would be a very interesting path for those video games to go to.
Oh, definitely.
Great question,
Lebowski. Yeah, great question. Thank you very much, and thank you everyone for the questions. Once again, the community mailbag, our personal favorite segment of this podcast. So thank you all so much for the questions. Really appreciate it.
If you would like to send your questions, go to tbs.com/arcade mailbag. If you are in North America, we will answer them at the end of our next podcast. We greatly appreciate when you send your questions. That is it for our episode of All Elite Arcade. This week, as always, you can find Chugs at twitch.tv, the Chugs. You can find myself at twitch.tv/eviluno. We'll both be playing video games most of the week. I'm expecting more snowy weather this week, which means I am completely okay sitting at a computer and playing video games for the online masses. So do check us out there. Also, every single Monday, our episode drops. Make sure you hit that follow and that subscription button. Give it 5 stars on all Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you may find it. We greatly appreciate the support, and we will be back next Monday. Chugs, I think it is time for us to salute our way out of here, and we'll be back next week. Have a nice day.